too. It's awesome. Okay, well, let's get started. So, Nellie, you are a behavior preventionist. You were living here in San Antonio, and then you moved to Kentucky, and you have an organization that you founded a year and a half ago. Right? Call My Kids.
Call My Kids.
And why don't you tell our listeners what that stands for and what you're doing?
Okay, so Call My Kids stands for Calm and Loving Minds Achieve. And what Calma provides is mindfulness tools for educators and parents to practice mindfulness with their students and children at home. When I was working as a behavior interventionist, I would see kids literally go from being just a little bit upset, maybe someone stole their pencil or someone was picking on them, to knocking over tables and chairs, destroying the classroom, sometimes physically, hurting another kid, and like running out of the classroom and down the hall and out of the school even sometimes. And what I realized is that these kids lack the skill of self-regulation, so the ability to calm themselves down once emotions started to heighten or impulses started to come. They had no skill to calm themselves down. So I was trained by your good friend and colleague, Dr. Lindsay Vera, to practice mindfulness with children. So she came to our school and trained us. But I wasn't really seeing many resources out there, especially for kids to understand why this was important to them.
Right.
For them to remain in the classroom. So, but again, I was practicing mindfulness with them using audios for children, and just saw such a profound difference. Like, we would practice centering, as I would say with them, let's calm our minds in order to grow our brains today. So we would take that time to really practice breathing and kind of letting go of the morning and just being there at school ready to learn. And then so they were starting to learn these skills that they could take and carry with them when they started to feel agitated or upset or angry, frustrated, or whatever it was. Okay. So I wrote 3 curriculum for the classroom. It's K through 2, 3 through 5, 6 through 12, and they have 5 modules. So a body scan, mindful breathing, mindful listening, gratitude, and empathy. And each module has 5 lessons. So it's about 25 lessons for the classroom. But then I realized that calm and loving minds begin at home, and honestly, most school districts were only buying the curriculum during the summer, of course, because they only want to start a new program. So it was well, what do I do the rest of the school year? Right. So I started to develop mindfulness parenting workshops. So it's really hard for a parent to be completely engaged with their kid, but it's really important because connection and communication are the 2 things that grow a child's brain for healthy cognitive development. So I created some mindful parenting workshops. I've broken them down in different sections, 0 to 3, 3 to preteen, and then some little 1-hour workshops. So that's what we're doing so far. We have a lot coming down the pipe I'm really excited about. We are developing more, actually an app. I just had a meeting with someone to have the audios available for parents. So I have the classroom curriculum, but I don't have much available for parents besides just a couple audios on my website. So I'm looking forward to have easy tools for parents to use in the home as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So with all this stuff, with the mindfulness strategies, the research-based strategies and everything, on a practical sense, what can teachers do in the classroom when they got a bunch of kids and they have a handful of kids who are acting out either because of an oppositional behavior or ADHD or just because they didn't get a good night's rest or they're hangry or they don't like the class? How do they practically implement these strategies
in the
classroom?
There's so many factors, like you said. There's diet, there's sleep. There's so many factors that a teacher cannot control when the student gets into the classroom. So, again, I really love practicing 5 minutes of mindfulness. You can look up mindfulness audio for kids and just letting the kids relax and know that they're safe in this environment. That really calms down the mind, the amygdala. I'm sure you know the amygdala part of the brain, the fight or flight part. That gives them the time to calm that down so the prefrontal cortex area of the brain, which is responsible for learning, is open and ready to learn. So what I like to teach educators is more of these preventative strategies. So that's one, teaching kids how to get into that headspace to be ready to learn, and also practicing those skills to self-regulate. Another one that I learned when I was the behavior interventionist creating the rules for the classroom and for the school is don't tell kids what you don't want to see, tell them exactly what you do want to see. So instead of saying, the rule is don't run in the hall, well, what do you want them to do in the hall? And again, it's positive framing, it's positive language. So I want to see you walking in the hall, I want to see your voices off, I want to see your hands behind your back. And then also I use this with parents a lot. It's called because thinking, and it's loud. Not that you owe a child an explanation for everything, but helping them make build the logic of like why you're asking this. So I would like for you to have your voices off because other students are in the classrooms, trying to learn and grow their brain.
So giving them the rationale.
Yeah, a reason, so that they're building the logical side of their brain as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then they understand why. You're not just giving them all these rules and asking them to do all these things. It's like because we respect our fellow students in the school, we want them to learn too. So that's why I'm asking you to keep your voice off. Or I'm asking you to keep your hands behind your back or by your side because look, our walls were just painted. They're so beautiful. We want to keep them beautiful. We care about our school.
Right.
So setting kids up, not just telling them what you don't want to see, but the exact behaviors you do want to see.
Okay.
I have one more. It's kind of a little bit longer. This has like been the best technique I've ever used in school or in the home, and it is when you talk to a child about what you want to see in their character or their behavior. Praise them as if they are innately good. So you are a good kid. I know that about you. That is unwavering. That is a fact. Whether it's your child at home or a child, especially a child with behavioral issues, because honestly, they might have not ever heard that before.
That's true.
So you say to them, I've known you a year, or I've known you however long, a couple months, and I know that you're a good kid. So then. What we did at these kids schools is we had 7 character strengths that we were trying to teach the kids. So if you're a teacher in the classroom or a parent at home, come up with some character strengths or some qualities that you want to see in your kid. And some of those examples were at the kids schools were self-control, social intelligence, grit, curiosity. There were 7. I can't remember the other ones right now, but these were character strengths that we wanted to see in our kids. So we would first of all tell them. You are a kipster, which we call them kipsters. You are a kipster, which makes you innately good, or gives them like a sense of purpose and pride as well. So, or I say to my daughter at home, you are a Springston. That kind of like this is what we expect if you are a kipster, you're a Springston, and again, it gives them that sense of ownership and purpose and confidence. And then next. Saying, I would like to see this character strength in you or this quality in you. So I would like to see you displaying self-control, and then you tie an action to it by keeping your voice off in the hallway. Or I'd like to see you show social intelligence today while your friend is presenting by keeping your eyes on them and keeping your voice off, because that's how we show respect and social intelligence to our friends here.
I love that.
And it's just so good because it gives them a sense of ownership and like, yeah, I am a good kid. And then it's like, yeah, and you can show that. You can show self-control or social intelligence or grit by doing this, and then you're tying the action to it. So you're setting them up. You're telling them exactly what they want to see, why, and like what character strength they'll be displaying. And then when they inevitably mess up, because they will. My favorite saying is like, disciplining is teaching.
Right.
The root of the word discipline is to teach.
Right.
So there's a lot of schools are moving more towards this restorative approach. So like instead of like, oh, you didn't display that behavior I asked of you, again, setting them up first. You didn't display that behavior. Here's now your punishment. A great way to approach this restoratively is to say, again, I know you're a good kid, but that action didn't show that. So like you're not showing your friend that you're innately a good kid, that you are a good kid. That action didn't reflect you being a good kid. First of all, what can we do to mend that? So it's not like here's your punishment now. What can we do to mend whatever you broke, whether it's property or a relationship or whatever it is, what can we do to mend that? And then what can we do next time to show that you are a good friend?
Right.
So again, they're always innately good. That never changes, never wavers. But the action that they display might or might not be good.
You match up with it.
Right. If it's not, how do we fix it and how do we prevent it from happening next time?
That's great. So you're talking about really like helping them with the amygdala, which really controls your emotions and all that kind of stuff, and helping to develop their impulse control, which is the prefrontal cortex, that in the front part of the brain. So you want to help develop the self-regulation to calm their mind. We're looking at positive framing of behavior, and so instead of saying, don't do this, it's this is what you're going to do instead. So you're giving them a solution. I hear that from a lot of kids. They're like, well, I didn't know what I was supposed to do.
Right.
And then the third was what you brought up, was praise them as if they're innately good, that they already have those character strengths present already. And then when they miss the mark, then you can say, hey, that doesn't reflect what I already know about you.
Right.
I love that. I love that. And I think that because what I hear a lot of times is that kids who already feel like they're pigeonholed and marked as bad, then they continue to behave poorly because bad kids behave
I'm a bad kid.
Right, if I'm a bad kid, I behave bad, right? So then what's the point in making a behavior choice differently if I already know that I'm bad?
Right.
So I love that because you're really showing them something different rather than believing the negative about themselves.
And we should all believe that.
Definitely.
They're little kids.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right. I think we speak too harshly to kids sometimes because we think that if we speak harshly enough, we make them feel bad enough, then it'll make them change their behavior.
And sometimes they really don't know what to do.
Exactly.
And actually, it really don't.
And it leads to the opposite behavior, actually, because if you ream them enough and insult them enough and make them feel bad enough, then it actually doesn't lead to better behavior.
Right.
And I tell people, all the time, even as adults, like if someone were always telling you, your boss or a spouse or a friend was always telling you everything bad about you, like that wouldn't feel good.
You would believe that.
Right. And it wouldn't feel good. You wouldn't want to be around them anymore. And you wouldn't motivate you to change, actually.
Right.
So...
I heard this saying one time at a training. It's like kids don't like the will to behave; they like the skill, and I love that.
Yes.
It's like, so I mean, we think all kids know what to do, but again, as educators, you don't know what's happening in these kids' homes. Like, you don't know if they've ever been taught how to behave or what they have been taught is unacceptable behavior.
Right, and we don't often know how they were treated in previous educational environments because they may have had a teacher who was overly harsh, overly strict, or overly punitive, and so then they come into your classroom with a very negative mindset about teachers. Right, exactly. So, awesome. So are there any specific resources that you would suggest to parents or teachers to help them get better at this so they could start to change their parent language or their teacher language and be more positive?
Yes. First is my website and my curriculum.
Okay.
So calmakids.com, and I again have the 5 module within those 5 lessons within each module curriculum, and it has all of the research and psychology that we're talking about here.
Yes.
In the curriculum, and then it's scripted for K through 5, and then the audio is embedded, so it's really easy to use. It's all electronic. You purchase it and download it one time, and you can use it on your phone, your iPad, your computer, and again, it's all right there.
Is that for the teachers or for parents?
For the teachers.
The teachers?
Yeah,
okay.
And it's, it tells you exactly how to set up the room, what to say to the kids, how to talk to them about these mindfulness exercises you're doing. Another really good one is called the Character Lab, and that is by Angela Duckworth, who wrote the book Grit. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a nonprofit organization, and it's just all this research about again those 7 characters that the KIPP schools implement. So how what type of language do we use, like we just talked about, to foster these character strengths in these kids? So, and it focuses on those, and also focuses on a lot of schools are using this to the fixed versus growth mindset when it comes to academics and behavior.
Definitely.
So they have a lot of that information in there too. So that's all free. Another good one would be Annika Harris. I think that's ANNIKAHARRIS. And she has free mindfulness audios for kids on her website, and that is what I used initially when I was getting started with mindfulness.
Love that.
I'm trying to think of any other. One locally here in San Antonio is Dan St. Romain. I just met with his his illustrator, who's mine as well, and he's in Alamo Heights, and but he travels around nationwide teaching about preventative behavior approaches, and he's got like songs, and he's got a booklet and 10 lessons, and then all these songs and a little mascot, Juan Pablo the chameleon. It's really cute, really good practical stuff to use in the classroom. So,
terrific.
And that was Dan St. Romain.
Okay, and we'll make sure we post those links and information so that you can access that as well too. So the resources are commonkids.com, which is your website. We have the Character Lab by Angela Duckworth, who writes about grit, and then we have Annika Harris, who has a mindfulness audio for kids, and then locally here in San Antonio, Dan St. Romain, who does a lot of preventative behavior approaches. So those are things that you guys can access as well too. So any last advice or anything for parents and teachers?
Basically, what I teach in both my mindful parenting workshop and to educators is that kids need but are lacking connection and communication. So you can never spoil a kid with love and empathy. You can set up really firm boundaries, but what kids need is to be taught and communicated to, and with loving connection. That's
the bottom line.
Yeah, that's the bottom line.
It's not more punishment and more detention.
No.
It's not the key.
Yeah. And again, like clear communication, like we just talked about, like literally setting them up, telling them exactly what you want to see. So, bottom line.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Love that. So if you guys have any questions, this live will be available for 24 more hours, so please share that. You can look at the full thing right here on my page, and then it'll be uploaded later for the full context so that you can see it on my IG channel as well too. So send us questions, send Nellie questions directly through Comma Kids right here on Instagram, or you can visit her website at calmakids.com. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Of course. So we're going to sign off now so we can eat. So thanks.